The world doesn't hate kind people. It just likes them powerless. It's not an accident you're here. Somewhere between your fourth unpaid favor this week and someone calling you too nice, something inside you whispered, "This isn't right." Maybe you've spent a lifetime being helpful. You bring soup when they're sick. You say yes before they finish asking. You listen for hours even when no one asks how you're doing. And what do you get in return? Crumbs, silence, or worse, condescension. You start wondering, do people not respect me? Is it because I'm kind? You brush it off, thinking maybe you're imagining things, but Carl Jung wouldn't agree, and neither would Buddha. You see, there's a shadow behind your smile, one you've never wanted to look at. The part of you that says yes because you're afraid of being unloved. The part that offers help, while secretly hoping someone will finally notice you exist. The part that confuses being good with being erased. But don't worry, we're not here to shame kindness, we're here to weaponize it. In this video, I'll show you exactly why your kindness turns into camouflage and how to stop being everyone's favorite welcome mat. Not by becoming cruel, but by becoming conscious. Because kindness isn't the problem. Being kind without boundaries is. Let's begin. Reason. You confused kindness with approval and they smelled it. Here's a bitter little truth wrapped in warm socks. Sometimes we're not being kind. We're auditioning. Auditioning to be loved. Auditioning to be needed. Auditioning to not be left behind when life gets busy or grandchildren forget our birthdays. And the thing about auditioning is people can smell it, even the ones who don't know what day it is or how to program a microwave. You bring them cookies, fix their printer, pick up their dry cleaning, smile through gritted dentures, and deep down you're hoping they'll finally say, "Wow, you're amazing. I see you. You matter." But they never do, because humans are wired like bloodhounds. We don't respect what needs respect. We respect what doesn't chase it. Carl Jung would have called this the orphan archetype, the part of us that still thinks love must be earned through service silence or sacrificial lasagna. And in old age, this gets louder. Especially if you grew up in a time when love was something you proved, not something you received. Buddhism slices through this illusion like a hot knife through ego. True compassion doesn't grasp. It flows. If your kindness has strings attached, even invisible ones, then it's not a gift, it's a fishing line. And the person on the other end, they may eat the bait, but they will always spit the hook. Here's your quiet medicine. Before you offer kindness, ask, am I doing this from fullness or from fear? Because kindness from fullness is divine, but kindness from fear, that's just desperation in a cardigan. Reason 2, the martyr complex. You trained them to treat you this way. Let's not sugarcoat it. You trained them to forget your birthday, trained them to talk over you at dinner, trained them to believe you don't need anything because you've never dared to ask. Now don't clutch your pearls just yet. You didn't do it on purpose. You thought being selfless made you noble. Turns out it just made you invisible. Here's what happens. You keep giving. You swallow every no you should have said. Back in 1982, you overextend, overserve, and never interrupt. You wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. And slowly, without realizing it, you become the martyr. Carl Jung would tell you that the martyr is an archetype soaked in shadow, driven by guilt, propped up by shame, and addicted to the illusion that suffering equals virtue. But here's the Buddhist twist. The bodhisattva is not a martyr. The bodhisattva serves with joy, not resentment, and they know the first person they must not abandon is themselves. In elderly psychology, we call this learned invisibility. You've been fine for so long, your family forgot you're not a statue in the corner holding everyone's crap. You taught them you're okay with being last. You taught them you don't need thanks, and now they believe it. Here's your practice. Retrain them. Stop performing sainthood. Let your yes mean joy, and let your no mean you still love them, but you're tired. Because if you die on every hill, don't be shocked when no one shows up to the funeral with hiking boots. Reason 3, you broke the rules of the game, and they hate you for it. There's an unspoken rule book in society. It's not written down anywhere, but everyone seems to follow it. Give only when you get, smile only when you win. And for heaven's sake, don't be too kind unless you're selling something. And then you show up, you bring soup without a reason, you forgive without theatrics, you hold the door open when no one says thank you. To most people, this doesn't make you a saint. It makes you suspicious. You see, kindness in a transactional world is like speaking Latin at a poker game. People don't understand it. They just assume you're bluffing. That's why your neighbor gives you side-eye when you bring her homegrown basil. She's not grateful. She's wondering if you're trying to guilt trip her into watching your cat someday. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." And in this context, people resist your kindness because it threatens their entire belief system that the world runs on selfishness and anything else is a scam. You, my friend, are a glitch in the matrix. But Buddhism tells a different story. True generosity, Dana, is done without expectation. It's a release, a letting go. Yet when others are still clinging to their ego for survival, your generosity feels like a personal attack. To them, you're not kind, you're a show-off. A rule breaker, a reminder that there's a better way, one they're not brave enough to live, so they mock it, roll their eyes, or worse, exclude you. You're not being punished for being kind. You're being punished for being different in a world that's scared of what it can't control. Here's the takeaway. Being kind in a selfish system isn't just radical, it's confrontational. So next time someone gives you grief for being good, just smile and remember, you're not weird. You're ahead of schedule. Reason 4, they think you don't bleed, so they keep stabbing. Here's something they don't tell you when you're young and helpful. The better you are at taking care of others, the more people assume you don't need to be taken care of. It's a twisted magic trick. You spend years, maybe decades, being the calm one, the dependable one, the I'll handle it one. Eventually people forget you're human. You're not a person anymore. You're infrastructure. They step on your kindness like it's floor tile. This is especially true as you age. You've become the family's emotional shock absorber. But one day you find yourself needing help, getting off the couch, and suddenly no one's around. Why? Because you trained them that your needs were optional. Carl Jung called this the wounded healer archetype. You're so good at tending to others that no one even notices your limp. And deep down, a part of you thinks if I stay useful, I'll stay loved. But usefulness isn't love. It's just how appliances get treated. Buddhism warns us of this trap too. Even the Dalai Lama naps. Even monks stop serving tea after they hit exhaustion. Why? Because compassion without equanimity becomes self-abandonment. And abandonment, my dear, always leads to resentment, quiet, heavy, and aching behind the eyes. You might tell yourself, I'm just being strong. But strength without softness for yourself is stoic self-harm in spiritual drag. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you don't express your needs, people will assume you don't have any. And if you always say yes, they'll stop asking if you're okay. You're not a statue, you're a soul. So bleed if you must, but do it loudly enough that they remember you're alive. Reason 5. Familiarity doesn't breed. Contempt, unlimited kindness does. Let's get something straight. People don't stop appreciating you because you're kind. They stop appreciating you because you're always kind. Like a hallway light that's always on, they just stop noticing until it burns out. Then suddenly everyone's stumbling and blaming you. If you're the person who's just always there, congratulations, you've officially become emotional wallpaper. And the worst part, they don't even know they're doing it. Because your kindness has become ambient, predictable, part of the scenery, like the air conditioning in a grocery store, comforting, but no one thanks the thermostat. Carl Jung would call this the danger of over-identification. You've merged with your role. You're no longer you, you're the helpful one. And when you're no longer seen as a human with needs, you slowly fade from everyone's emotional radar. Elderly psychology calls this compassion fatigue by proxy. You don't even have to feel tired, they get tired of being grateful. Because let's face it, saying thank you every time is exhausting for people who don't even thank their knees for holding them up. Buddhism offers a gentle but firm correction. True generosity is offered consciously, not constantly. The Buddha didn't say give until you're empty. He said, give from a full cup. If your kindness flows non-stop, it stops being a gift. It becomes an assumption. So if your heart is an open bar, don't be surprised when people start bringing their own cups and walking out without tipping. Here's your practice. Don't shut the door. Just learn how to close it gently. A well-timed no makes your yes sacred again. Because the truth is, people value what's scarce, not what's scattered. Reason 6. Kindness without teeth is just an invitation to be eaten. You know who gets eaten first in the jungle, not the lion, not the snake. No, it's the soft, wide-eyed animal that walks up to predators and offers them a hug. Here, have my liver. I don't really need it. That my dear friend is what most people see when you show up with your arms full of casseroles and zero boundaries. Carl Jung once said, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Translation, if your kindness doesn't have a backbone, the world will use you as a cushion for its guilt. Here's the psychological truth no one told you at Sunday school. People don't test your generosity, they test your limits. And if you don't have any, well then congratulations. You've just been nominated for Lifetime Achievement in Emotional Labor. And like most award winners, you won't be paid. In elderly psychology, there's a term that floats around quietly, role fatigue. It means you've been the caregiver, the peacekeeper, the emotional sponge. For so long, people forget you bleed too. They think you like being selfless because you've never screamed otherwise, but Buddhism warns us compassion without discernment becomes self-destruction. Even monks say no, even bodhisattvas nap. So here's the first hard truth. If your kindness doesn't have boundaries, it stops being kindness. It becomes permission. Permission for others to drain you, guilt you, and ghost you the moment you say, I'm tired, want to be respected, put some teeth behind your smile. Even saints carry swords, just politely. Reason 7. Your kindness exposes everyone else's emotional bankruptcy. Let's be honest, kindness is unsettling. Not to you, of course, you've probably been doing it since 1963 without a thank you. But to others, your generosity is a cosmic mirror they never asked to look into. And what they see in that mirror makes them flinch. See, most people have built their lives around transactional love. I'll help you move, but you better show up at my barbecue. I'll listen to your breakup story, but I expect birthday champagne. Then you arrive with your unconditional kindness and ruin the whole unspoken deal. You give because you can. You help without logging it in some internal spreadsheet. You are essentially what they pretend to be when they're around polite company. And that's terrifying. Carl Jung would call this projection. You're not just a person to them, you're a screen onto which they throw all their own guilt, shame, and unresolved childhood mommy issues. They see your kindness and think, why can't I be like that? Is she trying to prove something? What's her angle? Spoiler, there isn't one. But they'll invent it anyway. Because it's easier to think you're manipulative than admit they're incapable of giving without keeping score. This happens a lot in older age. Many elders carry unhealed wounds, mistrust from betrayal, and a lifetime of being nice means being used. So when they meet someone who's truly generous, they tighten their grip on their purse and mutter, too good to be true. Buddhism reminds us, people don't reject your light because it's fake. They reject it because it threatens the darkness they've gotten cozy in. So next time someone acts cold when you're warm, just smile like a bodhisattva who knows the joke. You didn't insult them. You just reminded them they still have a soul, and that's rude in some circles. So now you know. Your kindness didn't backfire because kindness is wrong. It backfired because you forgot to aim it at yourself. You became everyone's emotional vending machine, always stocked, never thanked. You gave without pause. And in return you got ignored, used, or told you're too sensitive the one time you asked for anything back. But here's the liberating truth. You can love people without letting them walk on you. You can say no and still be generous. You can stop pouring from your cup when your hands are shaking. Carl Jung called it integrating the shadow. Buddhism calls it wise compassion. And you You can call it finally coming home to yourself. Try this the next time someone asks for something you don't have the strength to give. I care about you deeply, but I need to rest. I hope you understand. That's not selfish. That's sacred, because when your kindness becomes conscious, measured, clear, alive, people don't just use it. They respect it. So stop setting yourself on fire to keep cold hearts warm. You're not a candle. You're a soul with limits, and those limits are holy. Be kind, but let them feel the edges. That's how you stay loving, without becoming a ghost.